Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. In today's video, we are going to discuss about fire safety. This is our fire safety video number 4. We'll be talking about EHQ, that is our emergency headquarters, or your fire control stations, that is on your ship. So basically, what is an EHQ? EHQ stands for your emergency headquarters. It basically means there is one dedicated place on ship from where you can operate all your emergency equipments, so that in case you have any kind of emergency on ship, there is one dedicated place from where you can operate all the things, all the equipments, machineries that you require to counter that emergency. So on your ship, you have fire control station as your EHQ, where you have your QCVs, you have your fire pumps, you have your sprinkler system, you have your CO2 system. There are a lot of systems. So all those systems are required in case of fighting any kind of emergency. Can be fire, can be for any other emergency preparedness. So we will see one by one all equipments that are lined up, all the machineries that are lined up there, all the alarm systems that we have over there. And we will discuss in brief what all things we have. So let's proceed with the video. So just before the entry of our fire control station, we have our isolation valve, deck isolation valve, engine isolation valve, and accommodation isolation valve. We have inside, this is our isolation valve which isolates the 3 spaces. And also we have our freshwater isolation valve over here. And then we have our entry for our fire control station, or the EHQ, the emergency headquarters. So we have entered our EHQ, or our fire control station, and we are going to see one by one what all equipments we have over here. Starting off, we have the fire NGS pump number 1, fire NGS pump number 2. And we have our emergency fire pump over here. Both can be remotely started. Both the fire NGS pump can be remotely started from here, and also the emergency fire pump can be remotely started from here. And moving on, we have our damper control. We can open it. This is electro-hydraulic system. We can open and close the dampers from over here. Next, we have a CO2 system, CO2 extinguisher over here. We have general emergency alarm, we have a manual call point, we have a fire control panel from which we can see all the alarms, all the zones, everything. If there is any fire alarm that has been raised, we can see which location it has been raised. This main panel from this of this unit is on the bridge, but we have a secondary panel in the fire control station. So right here we have our quick closing valves. This is our quick closing valves remote operation panel, and this is the driving air, compressed air. This is the compressed air bottle, and inside this we have a driving compressed air which can be used through the lines going into the remote operation panel for your QCVs for operating, for cutting off the fuel supply in case of any fire. So here we have driving air going in this direction through the lines, going down, going from there, coming up into this panel. To operate this, very simple. The instructions are here. We have to open this valve. It will open, it will start the flow of the compressed air into the line. From here, then we have our remote operation panel for our QCVs. Inside we have one pressure gauge that will show us the regulated pressure. And we have various knobs over here. And it's numbered 1 to 8, 1 to 9. And there is a marking like open and close. So on each QCV we have markings, like if we drop down this valve, what all tanks it will cut off. Like it's mentioned, like HFO tank 1 port, HFO tank 2 port, HFO tank 3 port. If we drop down someone else, it will cut off main engine lube oil settling tank, main engine lube oil, diesel oil tank, something like that. So each there are nine of them. Each one of them have a specific list of tanks which it will cut off. So if you operate this one with the compressed air, it will use the compressed air. It will get operated from here, and it will cut off the diesel tank or whatever fuel oil tank which it is designated for. So for this, you have to first, there are two valves. This is basically two systems over here, 1 and 2. So whichever, you can use either one. You can use the left one, you can use the right one. You have to open the valve over here and then just operate this lever, whichever tank you want to cut off from here remotely. Next is we have our pilot cylinder bottles for our fixed firefighting system that we have on board is our CO2 system for our engine room, and for our purifier system. So basically there is a glass, there is a key for this, and there is a glass which we have to break to take out the key, and the moment we open this pilot cylinder, there will be an alarm for CO2 release in our engine room. The moment we open this door, it is activated, and then you will have 2 minutes of alarm in there, and from here we can release our CO2 system in case of a major fire in our engine room or in our purifier room. Only two places we have our CO2 system as our fixed firefighting media. For cargo holds, we don't have CO2 system as our fixed firefighting means. So from here we can operate. How to use the CO2 system from a CO2 room? We will go into the CO2 room and specifically see each bottle, and specifically see the operation from the CO2 room over there. This pilot cylinder will take CO2 from this, and it will activate the CO2 bottles on the CO2 room, which we have outside. We will see it later on. We will cover it in our next video. If we operate this will release the CO2 into our engine room in case of a major fire. If we operate this will release the CO2 in our purifier room in case of a major fire in our purifier. So this is our last, the CO2 is our last means of resort in case of a major fire. When we have tried out everything, we have tried out all other means to extinguish the fire, but nothing works out, then this is the last means. We have to close all the ventilations, shut off all the electrical supplies, everything. Then we have to make sure that everyone is out of the engine room, and we have to take the head count. We have to make sure there are no casualties inside. If there are any casualties, we have to take them out before we use the CO2. And then once we are sure, then only we will use the CO2, because this is a one-time action thing. If once we have released the CO2 and then we realize that there is some ventilation open, some funnel flap open, some blowers open, any space from where CO2 can leak, then we don't have any other means. The last resort is this, and if this fails, then the only thing is to abandon the ship. So we have to make sure everything is in order, and then only we have to release this. This is our last resort, and then once everything is in order, we have used the checklist. We are sure that now we can use. We will release the CO2. We will make sure that it cools down, that the space cools down, that our engine room cools down. We will continue with the boundary cooling in case of a firefighting for reducing the temperature of the adjacent spaces and also the engine room. And then we will wait for the temperatures to fall. We will wait for the fire to cut off. We will check the reignition also. And there are various other things that we will see. So this is the most important thing we have in our fire control station. Very important part in our practical life. Moving on to the next, we have over here, we have covered the QCVs, we have covered the CO2 system pilot bottles. As you can see, how this pilot bottle works is, from here we have CO2 going, from these CO2 bottles we have CO2 going through these pipes, through these copper pipes, going to our CO2 room where our CO2 bottles are there, and then from there it will release all the CO2 back into our engine room or purifier room. So that is how it works. Over here is, we also have our CO2 alarm relay box. These are all the electrical circuits, junction box, electrical circuits. This is also a diagram which shows how your compressed air is going in, how it is used to activate the QCVs and cut off the fuel to the machineries. Like here you can see the proper diagram which is depicting what all things are in line. So there is a notice over here also There is notification for the engine room blower flaps operation, also how to operate it. It is mentioned over here. Another thing, these are all the junction boxes. Okay, this is all the accommodation fans, emergency stops. So in case we want to cut off the air for our to avoid any combustion, to stop the combustion, these are the emergency stop switches for our blowers, like emergency stop for our oil pumps, emergency stops for our machinery spare fans, and emergency stop for our accommodation and other spaces fans, emergency stop for our engine room fans, emergency stop for our deck fans, emergency stop for our galley equipment and fans, and a lot of things. This is a menu or like a index that shows what all things are here. Again, AC 220 volt. This is a panel. We have a PA speaker over here that will we can hear the announcements on this. Then this finally we have over here is our sprinkler or hypermesh system. This hypermesh system is basically for our five equipments. That is your main engine, your purifier, your boiler, your incinerator, and generator. This is also mentioned over here. Main engine, 3 generators, purifier, boiler, incinerator. So we have 5 location. We have hypermesh. It can automate. It is also on auto mode, and it's right now, as you can see, it is on auto mode. If we want, we can put it on off, and we can release it manually also, one by one, if we press. So there is a temperature heat detector, a temperature sensor on all 5 of these locations. If it detects the rise of temperature or smoke or flames, it will automatically activate and release the hypermesh systems. For hypermesh system, we have our starboard side freshwater tank, which is dedicated for our 40 tons of fresh water from our starboard side freshwater tank are dedicated only for our hypermesh system. That is the minimum level that has to be maintained on that tank at all times. And this is the control for the manual operation of that hypermesh system, and otherwise it is always on auto mode. If in case it detects any fire or any smoke or any rise of temperature, it will automatically activate to cool down that space. And that is it. We have certain instruction charts for fire extinguisher systems over here, and some more junction boxes. That's it. That's all. So that's all for today. I hope you guys liked the video. We will come back soon with more topics and with more discussions. Until then, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe my videos. The channel link is mentioned here. See you again.